Thank you. Morning, please sit down. Secretary Albert Rosario, Excellencies of the Diplomatic Corps, Secretary Cesar Purisima, Babe Singson, Nico Sliman, Moni Menes, Butchabad, R.C. Palasican, San Nicoloma, and of course the man of the hour, Secretary Piglacson, Commissioner Lucille Sering, National Treasurer Lea De Leon, Development Partners, fellow workers of government, ladies and gentlemen, mga minamahal kong kababayan, good morning. Allow me to thank you once again for being one with the Filipino people in this time of need. From the days immediately following Typhoon Haiyan or Yolanda to this day, as we take on the task of rebuilding. Not just our country, but the entire world came together for Filipinos affected by Yolanda. From the preschooler in Japan who donated his savings to the farmers in Haiti who raised money for their Filipino counterparts. We are deeply humbled and thankful for this outpouring of assistance. It is because of Yolanda that we are now at this point, that we are gathered here today. In recent years, storms of unprecedented size and strength, of growing intensity, have seemingly become the norm. And Yolanda is only the latest. By now, you all know that Yolanda is considered the strongest storm to make landfall in recorded history. And this is clear in the number of casualties in the families who were affected, and in the vast damage it did to the Visayas region. Your help is all the more necessary today because in confronting the escalating effects of climate change, the resources of countries like the Philippines will be strained to the limit. Let me assure you, we know that we cannot allow ourselves to be trapped in a vicious cycle of destruction and reconstruction. We know that it is more efficient to prioritize resilience now rather than to keep rebuilding. This is why we are going to build back better. The task immediately before us lies in ensuring that the communities that rise again do so stronger, better, and more resilient than before. Every dollar of funding assistance will be used in as efficient and lasting a manner as possible. The result of this determination, the Reconstruction Assistance on Yolanda Plan, or RAY. It will not be easy. As shown by the earlier briefing, the damage Yolanda has wrought is extensive, with $12.9 billion in damage and losses. This is why I've appointed former Senator Panfilo Lacson as the Presidential Secretary for Rehabilitation and Recovery, to focus solely on the task at hand and see that our goals are met. This is also why recovery and reconstruction will be done in cumulative, overlapping phases to meet immediate needs and to make the transition not just towards full normalcy, but to an improved state. We project that by the first quarter of next year, the need for humanitarian response will be filled. From now until December 2014, we will be preoccupied with critical immediate investments, such as the rebuilding and repair of infrastructure and the construction of temporary housing. Larger investments will be spread over multiple years and will hopefully be completed by 2017, if not earlier. RAY considers both the here and now and the future in a number of key areas. First, in terms of housing, as we are constructing bunkhouses to serve as temporary shelters for families, we are planning the construction of resilient permanent housing communities in safe zones. Second, infrastructure will not just be repaired or rebuilt, but will be bolstered, built to be stronger and able to withstand the onslaught of disasters. Third, to revive agriculture and fisheries, which employ a large part of our countrymen in the Visayas, government will be there every step of the way, from restoring the viability of farmlands to rebuilding or replacing assets that the storm destroyed, to providing inputs to restart farming and fishing. We will also train farmers and fishermen to give them new skills, all this towards greater productivity and income diversification. Fourth, for livelihood and business cash for work programs, the opening of lines of credit and mechanisms for financing and support for MSMEs will be made available to help Filipinos recover, while we work with private partners to attract investments in affected areas and build a more inclusive local economy. Fifth, government will ensure that the delivery of health, education, and other essential services remain constant in areas hit by Yolanda as we repair and rebuild affected public infrastructure. Through RAY, we are not just settling for the minimum. We do not want our countrymen merely to make do. We are taking this chance not just to rebuild what was destroyed, but again, more importantly, to build back better. Over and beyond this, I ask you to confront what I believe will be the rising challenge of our times, the increasing risks posed to all of us by global warming and climate change. In the aftermath of Yolanda, what we must build is a partnership born not only of necessity, but also of the realization that helping all those in need, all those who suffer, must be accompanied by reducing the risks that allow this need and this suffering to arise. Now, more than ever, we must work together to mitigate the abuse of the environment that has resulted and continues to result in tragedy, especially for the more vulnerable peoples of the world. There is indeed much left to do for all of us in the months and years ahead, but we are undaunted. We know that we can accomplish all that we have set out to do. The reasons for this confidence? First, because we know that we are not alone. We have the support of the thousands who work to alleviate the suffering of Yolanda's victims, and we have partners in your governments, organizations, and people. The second and most important reason can be found in the attitude of the thousands of volunteers and relief workers I saw, an attitude that states with the utmost certainty, our failure means the suffering of our fellow man, and therefore we cannot fail. Typhoon Yolanda would be a calamity in the truest sense of the word indeed, if it rendered us incapable of coming to the aid of those in need. If the enormity of the task ahead is enough to dissuade us from doing all we can do to improve the plight of affected Filipinos, and to work with others to ensure that no other people need suffer through such a tragedy again. The weeks immediately following the typhoon showed that this is not the case. The response of so many, both here and abroad, made clear that hope, goodwill, and generosity are present. Above all, that there is no shortage of people who will work alongside us in this effort. These spur our determination to see Ray to completion. These fuel our drive to build back better, not just the towns and damaged infrastructure, but the very lives of those affected by Yolanda. These require us to be more proactive in our efforts to manage the effects of climate change, not just for today, but also for the future, producing a stronger, more resilient Philippines, and ultimately a stronger and more resilient world. Thank you once again for all your support, and I bid all of you a good day.